Here is the 88th potentate, Lawrence Bachman of the Missouri Temple. But as I pointed out to you a few moments ago, Debbie Ely and yours truly, Bill Carlson, will be back at 10:30 after coverage of our 10 o'clock news. We'll be back with every parade unit, every marching unit, every float, the entire Aquatennial Torchlight Parade. So we'll take this pause for the late news, and we'll be back at 10:30.
Although most of the attention in downtown Minneapolis tonight certainly focused on the Aquatennial Torchlight Parade, there was another spectacle, a lone climber who made his way up the outside of the Pillsbury Tower. If you've been hungry for dinner at Charlie's, forget it. The Minneapolis landmark is shutting down. The Twin Cities provided the destination tonight for some people who travel around the world in Model A Fords, and the crew of the Hjemkomst is basking in the limelight of its daring Atlantic crossing. The stories are coming up on the 10 p.m. report.
At $57.95, the Mazda B2000 Sundowner is the lowest priced truck in America. Yet it comes with standard features Datsun and Toyota don't even offer on their economy trucks. Like a 5-speed, steel-belted radials, 3-passenger seating, tinted glass, full carpeting. And sakes alive, Mazda B2000 Sundowner even gets better gas mileage.
Only Mazda's got a truck for just $57.95.
Everyone with diabetes who uses insulin will now find life a little easier with new BD Microfine 3, the thinnest, finest, sharpest insulin syringe needle you can use for unequaled injection comfort. Never before have insulin users experienced such ease with their injections. The Microfine 3 needle is available only on BD insulin syringes.
Now save up to $7 on BD syringes. Look for this ad with a money-saving coupon in Friday's newspaper.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
From WCCO Television, the Northwest's leading news station, this is the 10 p.m. report.
Good evening, everyone. Hundreds of thousands are spending this lovely July evening watching the Aquatennial Torchlight Parade wind its way through downtown Minneapolis. But there was another spectacle which also attracted considerable attention. 22-year-old Jeffrey Sobolik of Bloomington decided this would be a good evening to climb to the top of the 40-story Pillsbury Center building. So at about 6:20, he set out on his upward quest, drawing more and more attention as he moved up the side of the building. About an hour after he started, Jeffrey reached the top, but then he had to wait 20 minutes for the fire department rescue squad to help him off the roof. His considerable accomplishment, though, proved to be his comeuppance, if you will. Tonight, Jeffrey is in jail on charges of trespassing and disorderly conduct. 2 blocks away, sadly, an older Minneapolis landmark closed its doors for the last time tonight.
Well, David, it was the final evening for Charlie's Cafe. The restaurant's owner announced today that Charlie's is closing to make way for a new office building. A look at one of the country's foremost dining spots from Alan Cox.
Charlie's had won national awards for its dining and ambiance. It had won local renown as a place where the elite meet. Business people to hatch deals, politicos to plot for the next election. It had started in 1934. It moved across 4th Avenue in 1948 to an inn of the French provincial style. Style was the byword at Charlie's. Patrons liked the atmosphere of class without haughtiness. Its location near the seats of city and county government made it a favored spot for local officials. So much so that in the mid-70s, Charlie's had its own accounting number with Hennepin County. Former City Council President Louis DeMars had his final Charlie's meal tonight and remembered some of the hundreds that had come before.
You kind of knew that if you had a few minutes before you had a meeting or something, you could stop by and you would know someone there. Plus, the help at Charlie's and the management at Charlie's has always been fantastic. They call you by name, and the oak paneling and all of the things that they have inside. It's a class place.
It was the prime location that finally did the restaurant in. It stopped serving lunch last year, its parking restricted by construction next door. Downtown's boom in building and inexpensive restaurants made Charlie's Corner too valuable to serve as an eatery alone. Owner Louise Saunders this morning sold the property to the developer that built the IDS Tower. Price of the sale, price of the new office building to be built there, and price of the memories at Charlie's were undisclosed. Alan Cox, WCCO Television News, Minneapolis.
Well, the people who host conventions in the city of Minneapolis are singing the blues tonight. Business is way down. This because of the general economic slump. And the conventions that are being held are much less elaborate than in days gone by. Mike Walter has that story.
Convention business is down 10 to 12% this summer compared to last. And at the Radisson hotels, the drop is even greater. The number of conventions down 20%. Trade association gatherings, computer shows and the like, they're down 50 to 60%. Corporate conventions like sales meetings are off 30% in the Radisson chain. The Sheraton Ritz says less money is being spent at conventions. Food and beverage sales off 40%. The organizers of this convention of hospital public relations people noticed the belt tightening. Officials had hoped the number of delegates would show a healthy increase over last year, but not so.
We hear many, many reports from around the country in the hospital business of the economics affecting the ability of people to travel, and a lot of travel budgets are being cut.
The conventions that are held these days are much less fancy than years past. Elegant filet dinners are mostly out. As for cocktail hour,
no open bars, all cash bars.
The drop in conventions is not dramatic enough to put anybody out of business, but it will take a healthy chunk out of the profits of some of the major hotels. And the Radisson chain has launched a sales blitz to get conventions.
To increase perhaps our funding for the Convention Bureau, so that we have more money for advertising. We have more money for salespersons to attend a lot of the trade shows, to go after the customers, to interest them in a much more concentrated effort than we have been able to do in the past.
According to the Minneapolis Convention Bureau, the 10% drop in business translates into a $1 million drop in retail sales and the loss of $2.5 million for local restaurants. Mike Walter, WCCO Television News, Minneapolis.
Well, there is a sign tonight that the economy may be picking up steam. The Commerce Department said today that during the second quarter of this year, the economy grew at an annual rate of 1.7%. And the Reagan administration was quick to claim the figures mean an end to the recession.
We're going to see a vigorous recovery. We'll see a fourth quarter that's distinctly up. I think we'll see a third quarter that's up too, but I think we'll see the real strength begin in the fourth quarter.
Some economists, however, are not so optimistic about the chances for a recovery.
Little to be optimistic about in Dakota City, Nebraska, where violence broke out on the picket line again today at a meat processing plant. 70 strikers threw rocks at non-union workers as they arrived at the plant. 100 Nebraska state troopers quickly arrived, spraying the area with tear gas to disperse the strikers, not all of whom left peacefully. Troopers scuffled with some strikers. One officer suffered minor injuries. 15 union members were arrested on a variety of charges. The 2,500 union members have been on strike since June the 7th. Officials in New York City have a big problem, another big problem on their hands tonight. They don't quite know how to remove tons of twisted steel hanging precariously over the street. It was once a crane, but early this morning the crane collapsed and fell on its side, dropping steel, concrete, and glass on the street below. A police officer said it sounded like an earthquake. One Virginia businessman was killed instantly, 9 others injured, and the damaged crane boom was left hanging by one bolt more than 60 stories up. To avoid further injuries, the wreckage was lashed to the building by cables. Doug?
Well, there was a cryptic announcement from Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin tonight. Begin said that one way or another, the PLO will be out of Lebanon within 3 weeks. And Begin offered no further explanation. Elsewhere in the Middle East, smoke drifted over Iraq's capital of Baghdad after Iranian warplanes bombed that city. It was the first Iranian raid against Baghdad since the two countries began their border war back in 1980. There were heavy casualties, but the Iraqis struck back, shooting down one of the Iranian planes. The pilot was killed and the co-pilot was taken prisoner.
Dave Garroway, the first host of NBC's Today Show, died today of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was 69. Garroway inaugurated the Today Show in 1952. His gentle, relaxed manner, his wry sense of humor brought a new style to the fledgling world of morning television news. He made his last TV appearance earlier this year on the 30th anniversary special for the Today Show. He left the show in 1961, never again achieved equal success or popularity. As his career waned, Garroway once remarked to a friend, "Nobody wants me anymore, nobody cares for old Dave anymore." Dave Garroway dead by his own hand at the age of 69. Expressions of grief heard today in Brooklyn Center, where services were held for 34-year-old Randy Peterson, the Brooklyn Center mother of two, killed early Saturday when a bullet passed through a window of her home and struck her. Today, about 200 people attended services at the Lutheran church where Mrs. Peterson had been planning to teach vacation Bible school before her death. Meanwhile, the two 21-year-old men accused of firing the shot that killed her were transferred to the Hennepin County Jail today. Formal charges are expected tomorrow against Ronald William Back and James Robert Croft.
And in a moment, we'll update two brave odysseys. One, a group of people driving Model A Fords around the world, and the other is the crew of the Hjemkomst, now in Norway after sailing the Atlantic.
The low-fat yogurt that tastes like yogurt never did before. A taste everybody will love. Very French, very delicious, very Dannon. Mélanger, the French-style yogurt that tastes like dessert.
Yum, 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 yum.
For years, southern chickens have been trucked into Minnesota. Now, Golden Plump, the only chicken grown in Minnesota, declares war, presenting the Golden Plump Chicken Corps, an elite flock dedicated to stopping the invasion of southern chickens and to ensuring that every store offers you Golden Plump chickens, the freshest chicken money can buy. So go ahead, Minnesota, eat well tonight. Golden Plump chickens are guarding your table.
This print is protected by PhotoGuard, the exclusive new 35mm print coating from Brown Photo. Now let's put it to the test. Brown Photo protects your prints from scratching, smudging, staining, even fading at no extra cost. And we use Kodak paper for a good look. Thank you. So don't lose your family's memories. Bring your film to Brown Photo, first with a finish that lasts.
Tonight, the crew of the Viking replica ship Hjemkomst is preparing for still another journey.
Well, tomorrow, the crew of the Minnesota-built Hjemkomst will pilot the ship out of Bergen Harbor and sail it down the coast of Norway. The past couple of days, the boat has been docked serenely in Bergen, but life for the crew has not been so serene. Dave Nimmer just returned from Norway, and he has a report.
Crew members of the Hjemkomst have had little time to contemplate and reflect on their journey. For the moment, at least, there are the press conferences, the picture-taking, and the celebrating. The crew has clearly enjoyed the attention. Even the failure of President Reagan to make an expected telephone call did not dampen their spirits.
I immediately raised my hand, made a polite remark. Well, I never shall forget that lovely afternoon when I met her at the fountain in the park.
Most of the Robert Asp family was present for the ship's landing in Bergen, along with several hundred friends and supporters who somehow managed to survive Norway's double-digit inflation while they waited. The missing member, of course, was Bob, who dreamed of, who designed, and who took 10 years to build the Hjemkomst. He died of leukemia in December 1980.
I think he would have just been laughing. Think so? I think he'd just been laughing.
What would happen?
Grinning. He wouldn't have said anything, he just sort of grinned.
No doubt Bob Asp would have been very proud of the crew that sailed his ship. They learned to handle her well, particularly after an early Atlantic storm that cracked a plank below the waterline.
And so everybody was kind of busy. There was always things to be done, and everybody being busy, you had to get in your sleep during the day or during the night, whenever your time happened to come. And so you ran into certain people. It got to the point where you hardly saw people. There were a few people maybe you'd see for a few minutes during one meal a day.
Today, the Viking ship sailed again. this time for an 80-mile trip south down the coast to Stavanger. It's a more confident and relaxed crew sailing her now. They know, we know, they did it. With photographer Gordon Bartouche, Dave Nimmer, WCCO Television News in Bergen, Norway.
We have another odyssey to report tonight, one somewhat different in temper and tone. This one involving Model A's. Those rugged old Fords provided a generation of mobility a few generations back. But today, fans of the Model A chugged into Minneapolis after driving their A's from all around the world. Tom Hendrick reports.
Henry Ford would have been proud. With the Stars and Stripes blasting on the radio and new cars leaving them in more dust, one could almost hear these old Model A's clucking, "I may be slow, but I'm ahead of you." The engines and bodies they came off the assembly line with half a century ago, the Model A's were nearing another assembly at the finish line of their worldwide trip, finishing here in Bloomington at the Model A National Convention.
It was good to be back in the old USA. We are spoiled here, believe me, folks. We are spoiled. And it's good to be back and be spoiled.
We saw some poverty like no one in this country will ever know. And we saw living conditions that were extremely poor. But all in all, regardless of the person's wealth and ethnic background, the people were very friendly to us. And we enjoyed teasing children and getting them to laugh and meeting the everyday person. No politics, just everyday people, and that part was very enjoyable.
It took 4 months of desert driving in the Mideast, snowstorms in Australia, and 24 countries in between to get here.
We had a great time, just a great time, yes. It was wonderful.
People are
we had our
this
problems,
way all over the world, believe it or not.
People
They're
are
just
people
super.
wherever you go. And kids are kids wherever you go. They all love old cars. People love old cars. I'll tell you what, now, I wouldn't take my modern car around the world, but I'd certainly do it with this one again.
The memories will last a lifetime, or at least until the next trip. Today, though, with the Stars and Stripes blasting and flags waving, Henry Ford wasn't the only one to be proud. Hendrick, WCCO Television News, the Twin Cities.
For the first time since he was shot 2.5 years ago, Minneapolis Police Sergeant David Mack returned to the office today to visit some friends. After dropping in at the downtown police headquarters, the sergeant and his buddies adjourned to a nearby bar where Sergeant Mack bought a round of beer. David Mack was in a comatose state for many months after he was shot on duty in November of 1979, but lately has made remarkable progress, and he continues to undergo therapy at the Sister Kenny Institute.
Americans traditionally love, and forever will love, a good tire war. Real, honest to Betsy, price-slashing, money-saving tire sale. Right now at Crown Auto, you can buy their finest automobile tire, the Cordovan all-season steel belted radial, for as low as $37 plus tax. Because the Cordovan all-season steel belted radial makes changing tires obsolete, Crown Auto gives us what we all so dearly love, freedom.
In the past 15 years, I've had 4 or 5 husbands, 104 alimony checks, and 1 refrigerator, a Frigidaire.
Frigidaire, here today, here tomorrow.
Left unchecked, 1 quackgrass shoot can send out 300 feet of rhizomes in a single season. Roundup herbicide destroys quackgrass with no carryover. And with its new 1 quart per acre rate, Roundup does the job at half the old rate. Applied after harvest, Roundup knocks out quackgrass, roots and all, so you get season-long control next year. New 1 quart Roundup. Season-long control at half the old rate.
I can afford Roundup.
Well, downtown Minneapolis is shining just a bit brighter tonight thanks to the annual Torchlight Parade underway at this hour. The streets are aglow with hundreds of floats and marching bands. Aquatennial royalty are also presiding over tonight's festivities throughout the city, and the crowded curbs reflect the popularity of the annual event. This year, nearly 750,000 people are expected to jam the streets, and if you're not one of those who made it downtown, you can keep up with the passing parade right here on Channel 4 directly after the 10 p.m. report. Maybe a lot of people are going to have a big surprise, because as I was coming back from dinner tonight, all the way along the Highway 12 entrance down into the city, there were a lot of people parked off on the side of the roadway there on the freeway. and they were just towing those cars away one after another.
They were all towed?
It's hard to get into the city, too, just to get to work. You know, one disadvantage of having a station that you have to work for right downtown.
What about the lineup at Graham's and Kohler's tonight?
Well, it's going to be a big one, I'm afraid.
Oh, geez, a little dark edge to the Aquatennial Parade.
A little dark edge out to the west there, too. For a while, we were afraid we were going to get clipped and have that thunderstorm move over us, but it didn't. Stayed away from the Aquatennial Parade, and the way things are looking right now, we're just headed for more improvement as far as weather's concerned.
You mean less humid, of course?
A little less humid tomorrow, a little warmer, too. We only reached 83 degrees today underneath the cloud cover that we had, 72 for a low last night, sunrise at 5:47, sunset at 8:51. At the present time in the Twin Cities, we've dropped down to 75 degrees with south winds at 5, humidity 64%, and a barometer reading of 3009, and the barometer is rising. Around the rest of the area, temperatures generally in the 70s over the southern part of the state, dropping off into the 60s to the north. But further out to the west, you can hardly see it because it's on the edge of the screen there, temperatures are still up in the upper 80s and 90s. Very, very warm air out in the west. Our concern right now is that going to make it into us in time for the weekend? If it does, our temperatures could be back up in the upper 90s to near 100 degrees, and the humidity is going to start climbing back up, too. That's the bad news. Today's highs, you can see the warmth out here. Little pockets of 100-degree temperatures all the way up into portions of northern Wyoming, where they had several record highs today, and that bubble of warm air is going to slowly migrate on to the east. Let me show you what happened last night. Now, this was after we were through with the 10 o'clock news, okay? A line of showers moving out of the Dakotas, heading toward the Twin Cities. We did have some warnings issued down here. Redwood Falls picked up over an inch of rain. Sioux Falls, South Dakota had 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts. But as it approached the cities, look what happened. It just kind of dwindled to nothing and then moved across the southern suburbs. Here we dropped ranges. This is when Scott and Dakota County was getting heavy rains this morning. The northern suburbs, hardly anything at all. And also Cannon Falls is reporting 4.5 inches of rain, 3 inches of which fell in a 30-minute time period. That activity continued to move on off to the east, and then little thunderstorms forming up around St. Cloud. Now watch what's happening with these. This started about 5 o'clock this afternoon, moving south. You drop ranges again to see what's happening. A little one here in western Hennepin County. A lot of threat, okay, to the parade, but as it continued to move on to the south, it didn't really swing eastward at all. Remained fairly strong until about an hour ago, and then it just dropped off to nothing. What's left now is a little bit down here in extreme southwestern Scott County and a little bit of scattered showers out to the west, but it looks like all the activity is dying off, and we're just going to head into a pleasant couple of days. The satellite sequence also shows that little thunderstorms that we had move through us, and the little pocket that's just left right here over Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul area right now, with most of the activity moving onto the east. On the U.S. map, the front is east of us, high pressure building in, another low pressure area approaching us, and as it does, it will move this core of hot air out here toward us for the weekend. Our forecast highs for tomorrow, we'll see temperatures in the 80s, but it'll be the upper 80s again tomorrow, with the 90s confined to the south of us. And our forecast map, partly cloudy to mostly sunny conditions tomorrow, but watch for showers, possibly on Friday again, at least a chance of them. Our forecast, showers ending, clearing, low of 64. Tomorrow will be mostly sunny, a little less humid, getting back up, though, into the 86-degree range, northeast winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Our extended outlook calls for, again, chance of some showers coming in about every other day as we still have little disturbances approaching us, but our temperatures are going to stay a little more on the mild side, 82 to 85, but watch for the weekend. We could warm up above that.
All right, good. Thank you. A group of Minneapolis Indian students, their parents, and in some cases even the grandparents, excuse me, are participating in a unique summer school program this summer. The Minneapolis Schools Indian Education Program joined with the Indian Health Board to offer the classes, which aren't always in the classroom. Barb Brown reports.
This 2-day field trip to the Mille Lacs Indian Reservation is an integral part of the 6-week summer school session because the program includes not only reading, math, and health, but also lessons in the Ojibwe language and culture. Here, participants are learning crafts, traditions, and ceremonies from tribal elders. Sylvia Pence and her 6 children are in the program.
They really enjoyed summer school program because of the Indian language and culture, which we've never been exposed to before because I was raised in the cities. And so we're all learning at the same time.
That's another special aspect of this program. From infants to grandparents, families are learning together. Daycare is provided for the preschoolers so parents can take part.
The main goals are parent participation, having parents learn how the Minneapolis schools operate, what the expectations and rules are, how teachers operate in a classroom.
I realize that you have to be involved daily with your children's schoolwork. I didn't realize how much they had, you know, to do it every day.
It's been an extraordinary experience. Wonderful attendance, extremely hard work by kids, a lot of sharing back and forth between people, staff, students, families.
Directors of this program hope the experience the kids, their parents, and their teachers are having will carry over into the school year in the form of a positive and cooperative outlook on education. With photographer Dick Nordling, Barb Brown, WCCO Television News, Lake Mille Lacs.
When MCI started long-distance service, some people jumped at it. Others had doubts. They heard MCI cut long-distance costs 15 to 50%. But maybe there was a catch. They heard half the Fortune 500 used MCI. But what about the other half? With any new idea, some are always first to take advantage. Others just think about it. Call MCI. It's too late to be first, but not too late to be smart.
Great party, Jake, my boy. I wonder who's paying for all this.
Now, this is good living. Good people, good food, a nice, cold Jacob Best Premium Light. It's a full-flavored premium beer brewed light. Got that love for life. Guess that's why the name went after me.
Where's Jake?
Who's paying for all this?
Traveling light. Go with the best.
Jacob Best Premium Light, full-flavored brewed light for today.
You've got a lot, Minnesota. You've got a spirit, a style, and a pride.
Minnesota is beautiful. It's great.
You're a big-hearted place with a small town smile. You've got a good bank on your side.
I like Minnesota because it has a good style of life.
Northwestern Bank.
We're on your side, Minnesota.
You've got a good bank on your side.
Well, at Northwestern, we like our jobs because we like the people. And we feel that Minnesota grows good people.
You're on Minnesota. You're home, Minnesota.
Thank you, Minnesota.
You grow Minnesota. We like growing up with you.
Minnesota's the best.
Northwestern Bank.
We're on your side.
You've got a good bank on your side.
Well, in addition to the Torchlight Parade, we got a Twins game downtown tonight.
A lot of concern with people after last night's fisticuffs. What would happen this evening? So far, really nothing. Milwaukee's done all of its talking with its bats. The Brewers lead the Twins 9-4 now in the ninth inning. They just picked up a run in the top of the ninth on Don Money's second home run of the game. The Twins and Brewers' final regular season meeting of the year has turned out to be another episode of Home Run Derby. Tom Brunansky thought he had started the hit parade in the first with the blast coming up over the barrier in right. But Charlie Moore, take a look, leaped over the fence and made the catch to rob Brunansky of a home run trot. Well, Don Money, the Brewers' first baseman tonight, did manage to put one all the way out of the park in the second, and it's 1-0 Milwaukee. As I mentioned, Money had 2 home runs tonight. The Brewers put this one on ice in the fourth with a 6-run outburst. Ben Ogilvy brought in 4 himself with one swipe of his mighty bat, a grand slam home run, and the Brew Crew leads it 7-0. Number 22 for Ogilvy, which is tied for tops in the American League. Gary Gaetti finally put the Twins on the board with this solo shot in the bottom of the frame, but Charlie Moore countered with a single homer of his own. Randy Johnson added a 2-run shot. 6 home runs in tonight's game so far. We're in the top of the ninth. Twins obviously have pitching problems this evening. So far, they've given up 9 walks. The Twins are off tomorrow night before opening a 3-game homestand against Boston at the Metrodome. Elsewhere this evening, Kansas City beat Toronto 9-7. Texas and Boston split a twin bill. Chicago and Detroit are tied at 3 in the 10th inning. It's 3-3 now in the 10th inning. That is not correct. Oakland took Cleveland. That's a final. 6-4 Oakland over Cleveland. Baltimore edged California 8-7. And in New York, the Yankees lead Seattle 5-4 in the 8th. Dave Winfield collected his 17th home run of the year in that one. In the National League this afternoon, Houston beat the Cubs 2-1 in Wrigley Field. Nolan Ryan pitched 5 innings, allowing 3 hits while fanning 4. Ryan picks up his 10th win. Art Howe supplied the winning run for the Astros with his single to left. Phil Gardner also tries to make it home, but as you will see, he was half a mile off. 2-1 Houston. Elsewhere, the Mets dumped the Giants 6-2. Pittsburgh edged Cincinnati 3-2. St. Louis over Atlanta 8-0, and the Philadelphia, San Diego, Montreal, Los Angeles games are just underway on the West Coast. Well, his name is McNamara, but he's no longer the leader of the band. The Cincinnati Reds today fired manager John McNamara simply because the team had the second worst record in the major leagues. Cincinnati is 23 games behind Atlanta in the National League West. We all know who has the worst record in the majors right now. Assistant coach Russ Nixon will replace McNamara as manager. This has been quite a year for Chris Perry. The former state high school golf champion from Edina has been named first-team All-American at Ohio State, played in the U.S. Open, and today he captured the state amateur championship. For most of the afternoon, it appeared that this man, Tom Lehman, would repeat as champ. Lehman, thanks to putts like this, had a 4-stroke lead over Perry at the turn. But it was at that point that Perry made his move. Take a look at Chris's chip here on number 12, a great shot. Perry and Lehman were tied at 7 under, heading on to the 16th hole, a hole that proved to be Lehman's Waterloo. The Alexandria native moved from one trap to another before he had accumulated 10 strokes on the par 5 hole. Anyone who's ever picked up a club has experienced a situation like that one. Perry breezed on to win from there. He finished with a 70 to go 7 under par for the tournament. Lehman and Dave Tentis tied for second, 7 shots back. Perry has played well this year, but he feels he has a long way to go before he turns pro.
Just keep going up the ladder until you reach the top. I mean, you're not going to be a Tom Watson because, you know, he's amazing and Jack Nicklaus, but it's nice to be in their shadows, I guess.
Looks a lot like his father. Indiana track star Jim Spivey has been named the Big Ten's first athlete of the year today. He edged Michigan tailback Butch Woolfolk by 1 point. And it doesn't take an economics genius to realize we're living in pretty tough financial times, but there was no recession in Lexington, Kentucky this weekend for the Keelan auction. The surprise of this year's event was the bidding war between a Middle East sheik and a British soccer magnate over this untried and unnamed 1-year-old colt. The winning bid, $4,250,000, the most money ever paid for a horse at an auction. Robert Sangston, the British soccer owner, won the bidding. Over $100 million exchanged hands over the course of this 2-day event.
Okay, thank you, Tommy. Okay. Continued coverage of the Aquatennial Torchlight Parade coming up next here on Channel 4.
Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
This is Gary Collins. On the Next Hour magazine, the latest breakthroughs in prenatal ultrasound treatments.
We basically have made the fetus our patient, not just the mother.
Our changing sex roles from preschool to adulthood.
You don't lose your manhood if you wipe the dishes, and yet no man wants to be caught by his buddies in the kitchen.
Fitness with Melissa Gilbert and more. We make every hour count for you.
When I was a kid, the house was always there, and I went through a lot of pain and a lot of mistakes, but the important thing about the house is they were always there. There was always somebody there to lift me up, and they were just there.
Hospitality House. 2 decades of preventative ministry, reaching inner city youth in time with unconditional love and sure direction.
The next John Davidson Show salutes a very special series, Hill Street Blues, and the cast members talk about their characters. There's Daniel J. Travanti.
He's in the business of listening and looking.
Bruce White.
Belker is not capable of keeping that rage inside.
Barbara Bosson.
If I see something I don't like, I usually say so.
Plus James B. Sicking and Betty Thomas. Enjoy the Hill Street Blues cast on the next John Davidson Show.
Welcome to the Minneapolis Aquatennial.
Aquatennial Torchlight Parade, and let me assure the folks viewing